Okay, so I'm looking at her eyebrows, and remember guys, I always told you that you have to observe their natural hair pattern, because here at the bulb it starts growing up and then eventually it starts leaning down and then it starts to grow straight downward, as you can see right here. So this is the bulb right here in the front, and then this would be her transition line, because you guys see how it's going down already. So let's do that little line so we know where her transition's line. So it kind of starts right here and then it goes down right there. Same thing over here. Let's find her transition line. So it starts right there. That way we know when we're supposed to start going downward, okay? So I'm gonna start doing the microblading on the bulb part. So I'm gonna stretch, and then we're gonna start with our beginning stroke. 1. And don't worry about that sound. It's perfectly normal to hear that sound. 2. 3. And we're gonna repeat that same pattern. 1, 2, 3. Can you feel it? A little bit or a lot?
A little bit.
Okay. So I am going to numb her again. I just need to do the shell first so that we don't lose that outline. That is why we do the shell. And then I'm gonna do another one right there. So I would consider that my transition, that very last stroke. So now I'm gonna start doing the bottom shell. And remember, to do the bottom shell, I come over to the side and I work that way. So I'm gonna stretch. I'm using my index finger and my middle finger, and then this finger right here to stretch the bottom eyelid. And then I'm working towards that line that I created for her transition. So I'm gonna add a little bit of more ink and redo this stroke. The next one right here, work towards that transition line that I did. We're gonna repeat this, putting a little bit more pigment on that one. And then our last one stays right on that outline and comes to the arch, the bottom part of the arch. So that is our bottom outline. Now we have to do the top. So I'm gonna move the camera over here so you guys can see that right there. We're gonna hug that line a little bit, hug it, and then come down. Oh, I'm gonna do that one again. Hug it and then come down. Put more pigment, hug it, and then come down. And then I'm gonna hug the arch and then come down. I'm gonna put more pigment in that one. And then we're gonna do the next one. And then remember that very last one needs to stay on that outline and then follow through till the end, just like that. So that is how you do the shell. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna soak it. So I'm gonna grab a Q-tip. I'm gonna dip it into my pigment. I'm gonna open the little cuts by pulling apart the skin, and then I'm gonna drench those little microblading strokes that I did, and let them absorb. While she is soaking in on this side, I'm gonna come over and work on this eyebrow and do the same thing that I did on that one. So I'm gonna start with the front, which is called the bulb. We're gonna stretch, stretch, start at the base, come up, and then slowly turn so it has a little bit of a curve at the top, not too much. So 1, 2, 3, repeat that step, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and see what I mean that they're shorter together at the bottom than they are at the top, because see how much I've moved in section right here, and look at the difference over here. So they're a lot closer at the bottom than they are at the top, and that's how it should be. So now I'm going to do my transition because I'm to that line already that I created. So I'm going to create my transition, start at the base, come all the way to the top, and finish at that line I created. So I'm going to add a little bit of more pigment onto that stroke, just like that. Okay, so now let's do the outer shell on the bottom section. Start at the base, work towards it, start at the base, work towards it, and then the very last one has to stay on that outline. There we go, beautiful. So now we're gonna do the top shell. So I'm gonna pull, 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 3-point stretch, stay on the line a little bit. Let me make sure you guys can see. So tilt your face like your chin inward. There you go, like that. So I'm gonna pull, pull, 3-point stretch, stay on the line, hug it a little bit, and then curve down. Beautiful. Stay on the line, hug it a little bit, curve down. Now this is the arch, and we want to be able to hug that arch nicely, so when we wipe the outline, we don't lose the arch. So stay on the arch and then curve down. Now another one, come down, and then remember that very last one has to stay on that outline and finish at the end of the tail, just like that. So now let's soak that one in again, just like we did the other one. Dip the same Q-tip into the pigment, stretch, pull it in, soak it in. Sometimes when I wipe it, I'll notice that the microblading strokes didn't go in deep enough, so I'll go in there once again and I redo them, not with the same pressure, a little bit lighter of a pressure, because we don't want to cut in too deep. So just lightly, I go in there lightly, and then I just trace them again until I can see the strokes nice and clear. And the pressure wise on microblading, you just have to keep practicing until you get the right depth. We don't want to be cutting in too deeply, because then we're going to cause scar tissue, and then the strokes will blur out. They won't stay as defined and crisp. They're not going to look like hairs anymore. They're just going to look like very thick blurry lines. So make sure that you guys aren't going too deep. The way that you can tell if you're going at the right depth is that if she is not bleeding, you have a good depth. If she is pinpoint bleeding, if you'll see like little dots of blood here and there, that's the perfect depth. But if she starts to just have large drops of blood and they just start running down, then you've gone too deep. And I know it's really hard to see right now with the first pass, but trust me, once you numb it again with the second numbing, which is called ultra duration, and you guys have it on that material list on chapter 1. Once you apply that second numbing, which I'm doing right now, the shape is gonna stand out because the cuts are allowing the numbing to penetrate into the skin, and the ultra duration has epinephrine, which is a vasoconstrictor, and it cuts the blood flow. So then this whole area that I just cut into will turn white, and that helps you see the shape a little bit better. So we're gonna let her numb for about 30 seconds. What I like to do in this meantime is I like to go in there and clean up the eyebrow. So I like to use my little tinkle eraser and just shave off the hairs that I don't need. If you're an esthetician, then you're allowed to wax or do tweezers or do it with the string. But because I'm not an esthetician, I'm just licensed as a tattoo artist, I cannot use those things. So stretch that skin. And make sure you're following the outline, okay? You don't want to cut too much. Beautiful, that looks really beautiful. Now let's do the bottom. So stretch. And this is angled at a 15-degree angle. We don't want to angle it like this at a 90 because we can cut. So 15-degree angle. And just shave off the hairs that we don't need. And this is gonna allow you to see the shape much better. And I'm also using this to trim her hairs because they are very long and they grow flat down. So they're gonna be running out of the outline, and we don't want that. So I'm also trimming them, making them shorter. Beautiful, just like that. So that is her shape, and you can see it's starting to turn a different color. I'm gonna add a little bit more. Right there. And I'm gonna let her numb a little bit more. Okay guys, so she looks pretty numb. As you can see, it looks a different color right now. So I'm gonna use the spoolie that I used earlier to exfoliate her eyebrows to just wipe off those hairs that I just trimmed. Just like that. And now I'm gonna use a wet wipe, a water wipe, and I'm going to clean off the numbing. Just like that. See how pretty that looks? You can clearly see the shape now, okay? So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna outline the bottom portion, because this outline right here, I can clearly see it. This bottom outline you can't, because we didn't do microblading strokes on that bottom line. But because I don't want to lose it, I'm gonna go in here with a pencil and then just follow the flow. And finish it right there. Just like that, okay? You guys now can clearly see that pattern. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in there and finish microblading and filling in the gaps. Okay, let's see. So I'm working from this side. Just like that. Let me fix this a little bit. Beautiful. So I'm almost out of pigment, and I'm gonna put a little bit more in there. Actually, before I start on this one, I'm gonna wipe this one and get it numbed. That way, while this is numbing, I can work on this part. So I'm gonna use this, wipe it. So use these towels as many times as you need. Don't get a new wipe until it's like completely dirty. I don't know, that's just me. Other people, they just use one wipe a couple of times and they switch over to the next one. I'm not like that. I don't like to be wasteful. So I'm just gonna clean this off. I see that she has like a little bit of a scab here. I think it's like a previous, like she had a pimple and it's healing. So she might get a little bit of bleeding on that right there. So if you are working, if someone comes in and they have a lot of acne on their eyebrows, you cannot work on them because they will bleed a lot. And when they're bleeding a lot, they're pushing out the pigment at the same time as you're depositing it. So when the brows heal, nothing's gonna stay behind. And then it's just really hard to work on an eyebrow when it's bleeding a lot. So I would tell them to wait until their acne has cleared, and then they can come back and you can do her eyebrows. But because this one's just one and it looks like it's healing already, I'm not gonna worry about it. So let's start working on this eyebrow. So I'm gonna start with the bottom shell, and right now all we're doing is just going in there and filling it in. We're basically following her hair pattern and just mimicking more hair strokes so that we fill it in. So I'm stretching, and I'm resting my elbow on her chest and my palm on her cheek. I'm not pressing into it. I'm just using it there as a placement. So don't feel bad if you're hovering over your client. It's completely normal. Just don't press onto their skin. So I'm starting with my short one, and I'm gonna do my long one. Short. Can you feel it a little bit less?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Short one. A long one. See how I'm stretching? Stretch short, and then a long one. Then a short one, and a long one. So now we're gonna come to the top section. Pull, pull. We're gonna start with our short one here, go into that one. Now we're gonna do our long one, start right here, nice and flowy. Now we're gonna start up here. Short one goes into the previous one that we did. Then the next one starts right here in between, goes down, and start turning her face. Pull, pull. Right there. Then the next one. And now we're just gonna fill in the rest. Fill in the gaps. Remember to do long and flowy strokes. We don't want to do little tiny strokes like that. Keep them long and flowy so that they look natural, because we don't want short choppy strokes. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna soak this again. We're gonna dip it into our pigment and soak it. And then we're gonna move over to our other brow. So I'm gonna get this cleaned and ready so we can start the microblading.